of South Carolina joins us now. Senator, you have promised. I want to go to this Lisa Page. A lot of credit to Congressman Collins of Georgia.
Right.
Last week, we got the Orr testimony. This week, we got the Page. We have all of that, 302s, Gang of Eight, and the FISA warrants themselves. My question to you is simple. Now do we have to, based on what Lisa Page said, do we now have to go back right to Hillary Clinton if, in fact, the DOJ rigged that from the get-go?
Yeah, there's two questions I think the public deserves an answer to. Did they short-circuit the Clinton email investigation because they wanted her to win, and they knew if they charged her, she might lose? Did they start the Russian investigation against Trump as an insurance policy in case he did win? Those are the two questions that I'll try to get you answers to.
Well, it also, where's Michael Horowitz? Where's John Huber? Because we're also waiting for them.
Right. There's three people going to look at this. Horowitz is going to look at the FISA abuse. Did the DOJ corruptly get a warrant against an American citizen, Carter Page? I think they corruptly got a warrant against Carter Page, and that should scare every American. You've got the Utah U.S. Attorney acting as a quasi-Mueller when it comes to all things DOJ, FBI. I think we need a special counsel to look at the potential crimes by the Department of Justice, the FBI, regarding the Clinton email investigation and the Russian investigation against Trump early on. The point is, the Congress, not going to happen in the House, we're going to call them all before the committee. Did they try to invoke the 25th Amendment to take the president down? Did they get a warrant against an American citizen using information they know was flawed? Did they tank the Clinton email investigation because they were afraid that if they indicted her, she would lose an election they wanted her to win? You're going to get answers to that the best I can give them to you.
Senator, this now is brought to an even higher level, what was released yesterday. That is right into the Attorney General, Loretta Lynch's office. Do we need her text, her emails? Does she need to be put under oath? And more importantly, what information did she give to the former president of the United States? What did Obama know, and when did he know it as to all of this?
Here's the question I've got. Why would you decide not to charge her before you even talk to her? The point is, it seems to me they were going to make sure it didn't go too far, that the Department of Justice under Loretta Lynch was never going to let this email investigation go too far. Before they even talked to her, apparently they decided not to charge her. And when they did talk to her, they talked to her without being under oath. They gave a lot of people immunity in the Clinton email investigation for no good reason. So here's what I think happened. I think the Clinton email investigation was short-circuited because they did not want to compromise her ability to win an election. They hated Trump's guts. They started the beginning of the Russian investigation before he won as an insurance policy in case he did win.
Here's another problem. This is why releasing the FISAs, the 302s, Gang of Eights, which I believe, I don't know why the president hasn't signed off. I guess that probably will be forthcoming. I hope he does. But here's the interesting part. In Bruce Orr's testimony last week, we thought we knew, now we know. Bruce Orr said he warned everybody in August of 2016. Hillary paid for it. It's tainted. Nobody's verified it. Nobody's corroborated it. Christopher Steele hates Donald Trump and has an agenda. And the thing is, Christopher Steele, if anyone said they verified it, we know it's not true because Steele, in an interrogatory in Great Britain, he said he didn't know if it was true himself. So they couldn't have verified it, but they used it for FISA warrants.
It goes a little deeper than that. So Bruce Orr is telling the head of the investigation, McCabe and others, you can't rely on this dossier because the guy who created it hates Trump. He's got a political agenda, right? So with that knowledge, they asked for a warrant 4 different occasions against Carter Page, and here's what McCabe said. Without the dossier, we'd never gotten the warrant. They show the dossier.
Said that.
McCabe said that, but it gets worse. After Trump wins, Comey gives him a copy of the dossier saying, I want you to know this is out there. We can't verify any of it, but I just want you to know about it. It's the same document they gave to the court under oath.
Wait a minute. So Comey signed that. Comey signed off on the dossier and the warrant in October 2016. before Donald Trump sworn in January 2017, well, it's salacious, but it's unverified. James Comey, you have a right to remain silent.
How could that be? How could you tell the court it's reliable and tell the president, well, we don't know if it's true or not?
Because they were setting him up from the get-go.
Because they were maybe setting him up.
That's right. All right. Thank you, Senator.
Now, John Yoo, who served as Deputy Assistant Attorney General under President George W. Bush. John, I want to do this in order. First of all, you saw early in this program moments ago, political adversaries like Senator Blumenthal, a Democrat who sparred with the president a couple of times, says this sentencing was too light. Moments ago, as you heard from Catherine Herridge, Manafort's attorney called the judge hostile and callous. Where do you put the sentence of Paul Manafort today?
Well, first, I think it's very wise the framers did not put Congress in charge of imposing sentences and trying people for guilt. This is why we have jury trials and why we have judges, because those are the people who should set the sentences, not public mass anger or hysteria. I think the sentence here was quite fair. I think Paul Manafort's defense attorney is not doing him a good turn by complaining about the judge. The judge could have sentenced him up to 10 years. He got less than 4 years here. So altogether, with the Virginia proceeding, he'll be in jail for 8 years. He could have been in jail for 30 years.
All right. And then the new developments. And we were just talking last hour with our guest in the center seat on Outnumbered, Judge Andrew Napolitano, about the feathering out from this, that there could be other municipalities, jurisdictions, and then within seconds, New York City files on mortgage fraud and a list of other things against Paul Manafort.
I think your correspondent is quite right. What's going on here is that some states, like New York, that are relatively hostile to President Trump, want to prevent any consequences if President Trump were to pardon Paul Manafort, because the president, under the Constitution, can only pardon for federal crimes. He can't pardon for state crimes. However, I think President Trump would be out of his mind and committing a gross tactical political mistake for himself if he were to pardon Paul Manafort. Manafort is clearly guilty. In fact, he pled to being guilty in Washington, D.C. There was no trial. I don't see why he should get any consideration of mercy from the president because he was unjustly convicted.
The press secretary, White House press briefing on Monday, talked about that door being open or closed for a pardon. Let's watch it.
Why hasn't the president ruled out a pardon for Paul Manafort?
The president has made his position on that clear, and he'll make a decision when he's ready.
All right, let's move forward if we can, John, just in terms of what happens next with these other jurisdictions, because as Sarah Sanders has said, the president's still kind of looking at that pardon possibility. If it were to come about, these other cases in other states like California and New Jersey could pop up just as it has happened here in New York today.
That's right, Harris. I think Paul Manafort's crime was not just lying, not just witness tampering. He lied to the IRS, but he also set up and concealed fraudulent operations. And so any jurisdictions where those fraudulent operations, taking money from foreign governments, pretending to work for them, hiding the proceeds of these ill-gotten gains, could potentially file lawsuits. I think actually the New York one is going to be enough because he could face some pretty severe sentences there, and that will effectively prevent any real effect from a Trump pardon.
How significant is it that this judge didn't just mention Russia collusion, said this case had nothing to do with it? She then said it doesn't resolve looking into that. Why say something like that?
Yes. Well, first, I think viewers should understand that this has nothing to do with proving any kind of collusion between Russia and the Trump campaign to try to affect the elections, to try to steal Hillary Clinton's emails to try to disseminate them on the web. This is about conduct that happened well before Paul Manafort was campaign chairman for the Trump campaign and involved basically his defrauding of Ukrainians, lying to the IRS about it, and then hiding the proceeds offshore and money laundering. So I think the judge went out of her way. What she said is accurate in that what happened here has nothing really to do with any proof or not of Russia collusion. But it wasn't necessary to say that because that's obvious from the facts of the case.
Interesting. So you said, hey, a cautionary tale to the attorney for Paul Manafort at this point about any disrespect toward the judge. And I'm curious, would that have anything to do with the fact that she's now looking at whether or not to send him to a prison that he's requesting?
As you said, Harris, I would not want to get on this judge's bad side after I think actually she treated him quite fairly, sentenced him to a range that's less than half of what he could have gotten, and then still has a lot of involvement with the case, not just where Manafort's going to be sent, but should Manafort want to complain or try to raise issues with his detention, it could actually come up before her again. And I actually think what the attorney said there is not quite right. I don't think this judge showed deep hostility towards Manafort or the lawyer. I actually think she was rather fair throughout the proceedings. It really shows that the people who attacked the Virginia judge were doing so for partisan reasons. Remember, people complained he sentenced him too lightly, but actually this judge sentenced Manafort to less time than the judge in Virginia did.
Interesting. John Yoo, thank you very much for your expertise and your time.